What would you do if life handed you a chance encounter that could change your destiny forever? Imagine being a struggling single dad with barely enough money to keep the lights on, suddenly thrust into a situation where saving a stranger's life would unlock secrets, wealth, and heartbreak you never expected. This is not just another love story. It is a story of survival, sacrifice, betrayal, and the kind of twist that will leave you breathless. So before we dive in, hit that subscribe button now, because the story you are about to hear will grip your heart, shake your soul, and make you believe that sometimes fate itself comes crashing into our lives in the most unexpected way. Michael Turner was the kind of man life never went easy on. Yet he carried his burdens with quiet dignity that most people in his small town of Ashwood never noticed. Too busy with their own lives to see the way he rushed from his construction shifts to pick up his little daughter Emily from school, or the way he stretched every dollar to keep food on the table and the lights on in their shabby little apartment above the hardware store. Michael had been a single dad ever since Emily's mother walked out when the girl was just 3 years old, leaving nothing behind but a scribbled note and a closet half empty. From that day forward, he promised himself he would never let Emily feel unwanted again. Life was paycheck to paycheck with bills stacked like bricks he could never climb over. But his world found light whenever Emily laughed, her brown curls bouncing as she told him about her day, or when she hugged him at night, whispering, "You are the best daddy." He never told her how scared he often was, how he stayed up late staring at overdue notices and wondering what he would do if his truck broke down or if he lost his job. But he held it all inside, wearing the armor of fatherhood like a silent soldier. On one stormy evening, as Michael drove his rusty old Ford home from work with Emily humming in the back seat, the rain fell so heavy the wipers could barely keep up, and that was when it happened. The screech of tires, the shattering crunch of metal, and the sickening spin of a sleek black car across the slick road. Right in front of them, Michael slammed on his brakes, heart hammering, swerving just enough to avoid a direct collision, and when the chaos settled, he saw the black car had crashed head-on into a tree off the shoulder. Without hesitation, Michael pulled over, told Emily to stay put, and locked the doors, and ran out into the rain-soaked night. The car's hood smoked, sparks hissed, and inside, through the shattered window, he saw a young woman slumped over the steering wheel, blood running from her forehead. "Hey, stay with me," he shouted, yanking at the twisted door that would not budge, adrenaline surging as he pulled harder, ignoring the rain soaking through his jacket. At last, with one desperate heave, the door gave way, and Michael carefully pulled the unconscious woman into his arms just as the smell of gasoline hit him like a warning bell, carrying her away from the wreck. He laid her on the wet grass, checking for a pulse, steady, thank God, and brushed the soaked strands of golden hair from her face. She looked no older than her mid-20s, her clothes expensive, even in their torn and bloodied state, and for a moment, Michael thought she looked like someone from a world completely separate from his. Sirens wailed faintly in the distance, but for a long moment it was just Michael and this stranger, rain pouring down, Emily watching wide-eyed from the truck, and fate silently shifting the course of his life. When the ambulance arrived, Michael gave his statement, soaked and shivering, never once considering that in saving her life, he had just stepped into a story that would test everything he thought he knew about love, loyalty, and survival. That night, he went home with Emily, heart still pounding, unaware that the girl he had saved was none other than Claire Whitmore, daughter of billionaire investor Richard Whitmore, heiress to an empire worth more than Michael could ever imagine. For now, all he knew was that he had done what any decent man should do, but the universe was already moving pieces he could not yet see, and his ordinary life was about to collide with wealth, lies, and temptations that would challenge his soul. Michael never expected to hear from the girl again. After all, people like her did not belong in his world, and once the paramedics took her away, that stormy night, he thought their paths had ended. Their days went by, and life returned to its usual grind of early mornings at the construction site, evenings spent helping Emily with her homework, and the constant juggling act of bills versus groceries, groceries versus gas, and gas versus rent, but something lingered in his mind, the look of her face. When he pulled her from the car, the way her pulse had felt beneath his fingers, the fragility of a stranger's life in his rough hands. Then one afternoon, as he was patching drywall in a nearly finished house, a black car pulled up outside, sleek and polished, sticking out like a diamond in a gravel lot, and out stepped a tall man in a suit flanked by another in sunglasses. Michael's first thought was that he was in trouble, but when the man approached and asked, "Are you Michael Turner?" with a voice that carried both authority and wealth, Michael nodded cautiously. "My name is Jonathan Pierce, private secretary to Mr. Richard Whitmore. You saved his daughter's life last week." Michael froze, realizing at once who the girl had been, and before he could even respond, Jonathan handed him a crisp, white envelope. "Miss Whitmore would like to thank you personally. Be at this address tonight, 7 o'clock sharp." He gave Michael a card with gold lettering and turned back to the car. Before Michael could refuse that evening, Michael left Emily with Mrs. Jenkins, the kind old widow who lived downstairs, and drove nervously to the address, a sprawling estate at the edge of town that looked more like a palace than a house. Gates, taller than any building he had ever worked on, swung open automatically, and when he parked his rusted Ford among a row of luxury cars, he felt like a beggar who had stumbled into a king's banquet. Inside, chandeliers glittered, marble floors gleamed, and servants in uniforms guided him to a grand sitting room where she waited. Claire Whitmore, no longer bruised and bloodied, but radiant in a flowing dress, her golden hair cascading like sunlight. She stood when he entered, her smile warm, but her eyes still carrying the weight of the accident. "Mr. Turner," she said softly, extending her hand, "you saved my life. I do not know how to thank you." Michael shifted awkwardly, wiping his calloused hand on his jeans before shaking hers. "Anyone would have done it," he muttered, but she tilted her head, studying him as though she did not believe. That dinner followed a feast unlike anything Michael had tasted, but he barely touched it, conscious of his work boots and thrift store shirt in this place of silk and crystal. Claire, however, seemed fascinated by him, asking about his daughter, his work, his life, listening intently as though she had never met someone who struggled the way he did for the first time in years. Michael felt seen, not pitied, not ignored, but truly seen. After dinner, Claire insisted on showing him her art studio, a room filled with canvases splashed in bold colors. "Painting keeps me sane," she admitted, her laughter ringing like a bell, and Michael found himself smiling in spite of his discomfort. When he finally left that night, she pressed another card into his hand. "I would like to see you again," she whispered, and so it began, an unlikely friendship that grew in secret meetings, coffee dates, in quiet corners of town, walks in the park with Emily, who adored Claire, instantly calling her princess after seeing the mansion. For Michael, it was surreal. How someone who lived in a world of riches and privilege could find comfort in his tiny apartment, sitting cross-legged on the floor, coloring with Emily, or helping him fix his broken toaster with more laughter than frustration. Yet beneath the growing bond, Michael felt uneasy. He did not belong in her world, and he feared what would happen if her father found out. That fear proved true one evening, when he dropped Claire off at the estate, and was confronted at the gate by none other than Richard Whitmore, himself a tall, silver-haired man with eyes like steel. "So you are the man who has been seeing my daughter," he said coldly. Michael stammered, but Richard cut him off. "Let me be perfectly clear. My daughter's future is not with some broke construction worker who can barely feed his child. Whatever debt we owe you for saving her life, consider it paid. Stay away from Claire." With that, he shoved an envelope of cash into Michael's hand and turned away. Michael stood frozen, humiliated, anger burning in his chest, but also fear that if he defied this man, he would lose everything. That night, he sat in his apartment staring at the money. Emily asleep in her bed, Claire's laughter still echoing in his mind. His pride told him to throw it away, but his empty fridge told him otherwise. He did not know then that Claire had overheard everything from the balcony, that she had seen her father's cruelty, and that she had no intention of letting Michael slip away. In the weeks that followed, she defied her father, meeting Michael in secret, telling him she did not care about money, she cared about him. Michael tried to resist, afraid of dragging Emily into a war with billionaires. But every time he looked at Claire, every time he saw her kindness with his daughter, his defenses crumbled a little more. Still dark clouds gathered. Rumors began swirling in the tabloids about Claire's mysterious new companion. Photographs snapped of them at the park. Whispers of scandal in high society. Richard Whitmore tightened his grip, threatening Michael's job through powerful connections, spreading lies that pushed him to the brink of losing everything. And just when Michael thought it could not get worse, another twist arrived. A man from Claire's past, smooth-talking and dangerous, who claimed to be her fiancé. His name was Victor Hale, heir to another wealthy family, and he was not about to let some poor single dad steal what he believed was his. Victor approached Michael one night outside his apartment, stepping from a sleek sports car with a smirk that dripped poison. "Enjoy your little fairy tale while it lasts," he sneered, "because soon I will take back what is mine, and you will be nothing more than a footnote in her charity diary." Michael clenched his fists, every instinct screaming to fight, but he thought of Emily upstairs and held back. Yet deep down, he knew a storm was coming, one that would test his strength, his loyalty, and his very soul. And as Claire clung to him, whispering promises of love, stronger than money, Michael could not shake the dread that fate was not finished with him yet. The storm came faster than Michael expected, and it came with a fury that threatened to destroy everything he held dear. It began when tabloids published front-page photos of Claire stepping out of Michael's apartment, Emily holding her hand with the cruel headline, "Heiress, slumming with town's poor single dad." Richard Whitmore erupted in rage, cutting Claire off from her credit cards, locking her out of the mansion, and threatening to disown her unless she left. Michael at once. Claire stood her ground, choosing Michael and Emily over her father's billions, but the cost was high. Suddenly, the girl, who had grown up in silk sheets and diamond halls, was sleeping on a thrift store couch in Michael's cramped apartment, working part-time in a local gallery to scrape by while Michael took double shifts to keep food on the table. Yet, in that struggle, something beautiful grew. Michael saw her painting late into the night. Emily curled beside her. He saw the way she laughed in their tiny kitchen, as though she had never been happier, and for a while it seemed love truly was enough. But Victor Hale was not done with them. He struck with lawsuits claiming Michael had manipulated Claire, threatening custody battles that dragged her name through the mud. Behind it all, Richard Whitmore pulled strings, determined to break Michael until he crawled away defeated. And for a moment, Michael almost did. He thought Emily deserved better than a life of scandal. He thought Claire deserved her old world back. He packed his bags one night, ready to disappear, but Claire caught him at the door, tears streaming, as she begged him not to leave. She told him love without money was still worth more than money without love, and for the first time, Michael believed it. Together they faced the storm side by side, and in the end, truth broke through. Richard's empire cracked when a whistleblower revealed Victor's business fraud, destroying his family fortune overnight. Claire's loyalty proved unshakable. Her father finally saw that Michael's strength was not in wealth but in integrity. Slowly, grudgingly, Richard relented, and when Michael stood in court testifying not for money but for Claire's freedom, the judge dismissed Victor's claims entirely, leaving the couple free at last. It did not happen overnight, but step by step Claire rebuilt her bond with her father while refusing to leave. Michael sighed, and months later, on a quiet evening in the park where it all began, Michael knelt before her with Emily holding the ring and asked her to marry him. She said yes, through tears and laughter, and in that moment, the poor single dad who had once thought destiny only dealt him pain realized fate had saved him the night he pulled her from that burning car, and together, they began a new chapter, not of riches and poverty, but of love, family, and a future where they would never again face the storm alone.